Roberto Carlos, the man who redefined what was possible. The ball was traveling away from goal. Thousands inside the stadium thought the chance had gone. The goalkeeper didn't even move. Then the impossible happened. Nearly 30 years later, football fans still replay the moment. Scientists have studied it. Players have tried to copy it. And people still ask the same question. How did Roberto Carlos do that? Because for his entire career, Roberto Carlos made the impossible look normal. And in doing so, he changed football forever. Before Roberto Carlos, fullbacks defended. They stayed in position. They protected their goalkeeper. Then Roberto Carlos arrived. And suddenly everything changed. Born in Galáctico, Brazil, in 1973, his journey began far from football's grandest stages. As a child, he helped his family by working on coffee plantations. Life wasn't easy. Money was limited. But he had something special. An incredible left foot, explosive speed, and the belief that anything was possible. As he developed, coaches quickly realized he wasn't a normal defender. He attacked relentlessly. He ran endlessly. And he struck the ball harder than almost anyone in football. Goalkeepers feared his free kicks. Defenders feared his pace. Managers feared giving him space. Europe soon came calling. His first major move was to Inter Milan. But football history almost took a different path. Inter looked at Roberto Carlos and saw a defender. Real Madrid looked at Roberto Carlos and saw a weapon. One coach believed he attacked too much. Imagine that. A manager thinking Roberto Carlos moved forward too often. Years later, football fans would ask, what if Inter Milan had understood what they had? Instead, they let him leave. And Real Madrid gladly welcomed him. At Madrid, Roberto Carlos found the perfect stage. The Bernabeu. Champions League nights. Packed stadiums. The Galácticos. And week after week he delivered. The tackles. The assists. The overlapping runs. The thunderous strikes. Then came France. The moment that would define his career. The ball sat over 30 yards from goal. The angle looked impossible. The distance looked impossible. The whistle blew. Roberto Carlos ran forward and unleashed a strike that football has never forgotten. The ball appeared to be traveling wide. The goalkeeper barely reacted. The crowd watched. Then suddenly the ball began to bend. More, and more, and more. Until it crashed into the net. The stadium erupted. Football had never seen anything quite like it. It wasn't just a goal. It was football's greatest magic trick. But Roberto Carlos was far more than one free kick. At Real Madrid he won league titles, Champions Leagues, and became one of the defining players of an era. Alongside Zidane, Figo, Ronaldo, and Beckham. He helped build one of football's greatest teams. One statistic captures just how unique he was. Roberto Carlos scored more than 100 professional goals. As a left-back. Even today, that sounds unbelievable. Then came 2002. The World Cup. Brazil arrived with enormous expectations. And with players like Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Ronaldinho, and Roberto Carlos, they looked unstoppable. Match by match they moved closer. Until finally Brazil lifted the World Cup. The boy who once worked on coffee plantations had become a world champion. Yet perhaps his greatest achievement wasn't a trophy. It was influence. Can you imagine telling a modern fullback they aren't allowed to attack? Today it sounds ridiculous. Before Roberto Carlos, it was normal. After Roberto Carlos, everything changed. Young defenders wanted to score goals, take free kicks, create chances, attack without fear. The position evolved because of players like him. Football has produced faster players. Football has produced stronger players. Football has produced players with greater technical ability. But football has rarely produced anyone quite like Roberto Carlos. Because years later, people still ask about that free kick. How did it bend? How was it possible? The truth is, Roberto Carlos spent his entire career doing things that didn't seem possible. And that is why Roberto Carlos will always remain a true footballing icon. Not because of one free kick. Not because of the trophies. Not because of the World Cup. But because he changed football forever. Before Roberto Carlos, fullbacks defended. After Roberto Carlos, they attacked. Before Roberto Carlos, defenders followed the rules. After Roberto Carlos, they dreamed bigger. Roberto Carlos didn't just redefine a position. He redefined what was possible. What is your favorite Roberto Carlos moment?